go. Right, so welcome to Cosplay Photography from the year 2000-ish. More from about 2010, but this sounds better. So, like, who thought we'd be back in this room? You know, back in 2010, 2012. Like, in 10 years' time, we're going to be back in this room, looking at the same panels, except the guys will be dressed as a lot of ketchup. I did. Right. So a lot of these are going to be the slides that I did back in the day. My pencils are fantastic.
Oh, it's working.
Oh no, it is working. It's all cool. It's all the jokes I forgot I wrote. Right, so who am I? My name is Nert. I take pictures like these. These are the pictures I've legitimately taken at one of my first conventions. I didn't know what I was doing. Didn't realise.
No, it was intentional.
Absolutely intentional. I didn't realise this is back when the cameras didn't show you what you're taking a picture of. Like there's a viewfinder at the top, and the camera's down here, and it's like it's a guess. I didn't know that. So this is more the kind of thing that I do, or have done. I don't know, it's been years. I haven't done the camera in years. Which is why I'm showing you slides back there. So, photographers come in all shapes and sizes, and these are some of the lovely people, mostly at these events. There are tons of us, and there needs to be more. We're getting old. So, hopefully some of the people in this room will take up a camera. So that's kind of what I'm here to encourage. What kind of camera should you use? Do you want the biggest possible? Doesn't matter. The best camera that you have, do you want that one back? Yeah. The best camera that you have is the one that is on you. You cannot take a picture if you do not have a camera. If you have a phone, that is fine. You will still get the picture. So it doesn't matter. Try to say kit or gear, and then just said it with Kia. Kit does not matter that much. It helps, and I'm here to teach you a little bit about it. But fundamentally, as long as you can get a picture, that is the best thing for the cosplayers. Going home, no photos, is depressing as hell. I know. Why I did this in the first place. So, how do cameras work? I'm going to speed up a little bit through these slides because, I don't know, this is old shit, I've done this before. So this is my wonderful diagram I drew in 5 seconds flat. Here's how does my camera work? It's actually funny, I did look up to see if there's a more technical diagram, and actually, I put it up online, and it's pretty close. Mine's clearly better, I'm more accurate, so we'll go with this. So ultimately, all the magic happens down here, this thing back here, which is the sensor. And that is essentially like the old school film, that it acts exactly the same way. If light hits in, it goes, sure. And the point of the rest of this is pretty much to stop light getting to it until it is time. So you have these two shutters in the way. I'll tell you why there's two in a minute. Not so much these days with mirrorless cameras or phone cameras, but otherwise there's a giant mirror in the middle. And that's what makes the noise. That's the clicky-clacky noise. And then over here you have your lenses. We'll get onto lenses a tiny bit. I'm not going to go too much into it because lenses is, oh my god. I could talk for hours on lenses. I don't want to. But ultimately there's lots of glass. As you can kind of see in that picture. There is tons of glass. All to get this mirror. Go up here and show you what you're looking at. That's fantastic. And then when you want to take a picture, you press a button and this whole thing, all these gears and all these meticulous arms go, oh. It is ridiculous. I'm just going to think, if someone comes to the day, I was like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have this box, and there's going to be tiny arms in here, and I'm going to press a button, and everything's going to get the fuck out of the way, and they get the fuck back in the way within a second. That is crazy. But it's how it works. I should turn this on in a minute. But that's what's happening every time. That entire mechanism in the middle is getting the hell out of the way. These are going, oh shit! All of that every time you do that. That's great. So the reason for the shutters, the reason there's two of them, is because ultimately, if you've got a shutter, and because this is happening so fast, you don't tend to think about it. But you've got your sensor, which is a big square, and the sensor goes up and down. Ultimately, that means the bottom has been exposed longer than the top has, because you had to do that. So we have two. They go. That's even more insane. Cameras are ridiculous. Mirrorless cameras not so much, which is why I now have this dinky little thing rather than this giant thing. But I have both. I'll talk a bit about that. So, but ultimately, this is my current camera. And it is fantastic, it does everything that I want. There's more that I want, but it does everything I want. But now I have this, because this thing is heavy. And although it does everything, and I'm happy to carry around a heavy camera all day, everyone knows me and I will, ultimately it's like, that looks cool. That's gone. Or if I do a lot of like kind of casual photos, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, I'm going to sneak a picture. This is impossible to do stealthily. It's not going to happen. So now it's like, yeah, that's a crime. Onto like, what do you need to know about a camera? And this is true for whether you've got a phone camera, whether you've got a compact camera, whether you've got a DSLR, anything. Is how much the camera hides from you. We're going to talk a little bit about what it all means. So you have three things to worry about. You have shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. What they essentially are is, shutter speed is how long do those shutters get out of the way for you? How long is that going for? Aperture is how wide does your camera go? Let the light in, please. And ISO is how sensitive it is. It's not as exciting. So we'll talk about ISO first because it's the easiest one. And these are some photos. All I've changed is the ISO. And you can see it gets brighter the more sensitive it is. Might need that. And with the numbers, the brighter it is, double the number, double the brightness. Magic. Really easy. The downside with upping this is, as you can see, Jesus Christ. The more expensive the camera, typically the more modern the camera, the better this will be at doing. So when it says like I can do high ISO, what it means is this can go higher and will look a little bit less shit, hopefully. You hope. But that's one of the good tests of will a camera work in low light, essentially what you get the picture, as I say, you get the picture, that's better than not. However, if you want to do anything with that picture, Jesus Christ. I'm talking very fast. I've got a lot of slides to get through. So, onto the shutter speed. And again, it's like the faster the shutter, the more light will get. Also, the slower the shutter speed, the more light gets in, the brighter your picture. Fantastic. Most of working with photography is, can I get enough light into my camera? Until you look up to the bright sunlight, then it's like, can I stop so much light getting into my camera? Jesus Christ. So yeah, the faster it goes, the darker it gets. So it's great, okay, why don't we just make it really slow? So then things get blurry as shit, as you can see up there. Like, I kind of took a picture as I was wobbling a little bit. About 1/60th a second is kind of the slowest you really want to go if you're holding your camera by your hand. If you've got very steady hands, you can go lower, but good luck. So as long as they are holding still, fantastic. If you're like me and you're an asshole in someone else's view, then you can blur. Maybe I can become invisible, I go fast enough. I'm not the only one who gets in everyone's way, we all do it. So that is part of the fun. Cosplay photography is more about having fun than anything else, and I really want to stress that, because you get a lot of people who will be kind of, well, I want the photo, these are my photos, this is my area that I've claimed somehow under loan rights to in this hotel. And like, I want this shot, I posed the model, blah, blah. We're dressing up as cartoon characters. I'm dressed as ketchup. This is not serious. So have fun with it, and like, stuff like this is fantastic. This is some of the favourite memories I have of doing cosplay photography. It's just people clambering over each other to get the same photos. It's like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to get the floor as well. Just elbow drop. It's great. So the other thing you can do with just speed going really slowly. Why would you want it go that slow? For long exposures. You can have a lot of fun with this. Typically you do this outdoors at night. You can do it indoors at night, I suppose. Ultimately, if you have light sources that are much brighter than the things you're taking the pictures of, like we do not glow, LEDs do, that is fantastic, you can do things like this, which is a lot of fun. Similarly, if it's just you don't have a flash, you want this really natural light, so this is like 10 o'clock outside of MCM, just go around, act dead and just do not move. You're going to have this head for 1/10 of a second without moving, which doesn't sound like that long, but it is. I also have to stand still for 1/10 of a second. And I say that sounds impressive, except for poor Angie here, who had to stand there in the freezing cold. This is at Minami. It's March. It's the Docklands. Not wearing a whole lot, trying to hold two dangling things outside for an entire, like, 1/3 of a second. Jesus Christ, that took a while. But we had no other options. It was like, I want photos of this, otherwise the cover shoot's coming off. So you work with it. So we're on to number 3. Speed through this aperture. So this is how wide things go. And again, this sounds like this should be simple. It is not. Oh, Jesus Christ, it is not. So the smaller the opening, the less light will get let in. That's nice and easy. So you want to go like, wide open, light! No light. Fine. It gets interesting when you start focusing on things though. And this is what's really difficult to explain. The wider things are, the less focus you have. So you can see, like, I've tried to focus at the same time these models. Down here, both of them in focus. Up there, background's blurred to fuck. Sometimes you want that. That can be a really nice effect, but you need to be worried about it. Oh, that's not the slide I thought it was. Never mind. Do not care about this. But I'm putting it up here because I found a fact out and I was like, I'm putting it in a slide. When you start learning about this and you look at aperture, you start seeing these numbers and you're like, go to 1, to 1.4, to 2, 2.8, okay. 11, 60, what? And it's all because of all this mass in the background that no one cares about. But ultimately what this means is it actually makes it simpler for you, because like we had with the ISO, you double it, that doubles the amount of light, you get shutter speed, you double it, you halve the light that gets in, and these numbers halve it. All you need to care about those numbers, and the camera will do that for you. So yeah, this is kind of what else I mean about, even if you're not blurring the background, the tighter the aperture, just the sharper everything will be. Like, okay, the picture's not really showing this off, but like this photo just looks sharper in general than this photo. That's all that means. please. There we go, someone thought we were on. So I've got my two models, fantastic. Take a picture of the one in front, back one is blurred. If I take a picture of the one in the back, the one in the front is blurred. My God. If you cannot mess with your aperture enough to get both of them in focus, you can just get much further back. And I've tried to describe this, like, the further away you are focusing, the wider that field is. So you just get closer, nope, further away like that. It takes a long time to get your head around it, but that's just this. This is more of a case of, if you're worried about this, you're seeing this in your pictures, and you're like, what the hell's causing this? These are the answers! And you can just talk about that later. I didn't understand your slides. Fine, talk to me later. I need friends. And that's what happens when you get it wrong. You can do funky perspective tricks like that, but I didn't know I was getting it wrong at the time. I was playing with a new lens for the first time. I'm like, wow, everything's blurry. This is great. I'm going to use this lens for everything. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's fantastic to blur the background a little bit. There we go. So those are the three. That's a lot of numbers. And these cameras are old. And these are some examples. So this is a DSLR. This is a much more expensive DSLR. That's what you might see on the back. And this is a compact camera, kind of very similar to what you would see on your phone. So straight away, it's like, oh, there's the shutter speed, fantastic. There's the aperture. On the camera phone, no, it's not going to show you that because it's like that is too complicated. People are dumb. So ISO's there. That's fine. People can handle that. That's a big number. And then things like white balance and an exposure meter. And I said there was 3, and I lied! So there are only 3, but then you get to more complicated things. And I'll just quickly pass over. This is what's called an exposure meter. And this is not a setting, this is a guide. This is what the camera thinks is nice. It will look at this, it'll look at the whole picture and go, well, okay, that's bright, that's dark. I reckon it's a bit too bright. What you want is this 0 mark here, according to the camera. And so it's kind of a nice way because our eyes are shit, actually. Our brain makes up for a lot of things. We look at something, we go, that looks about right, take a picture of the camera. No, because the whole time I'm talking about all these settings that our camera can change and we can play around, our eyes are doing that constantly. And they don't tell us that. We don't know what we're doing. I don't know how wide my eyes are right now. Probably quite wide because it's dark room. Yeah. Cameras get very easily confused, just don't know. So there's a picture, and I go, cool, I could do with a bit of flash. I'll turn the flash on. It saw the shield, went, Jesus Christ, that's bright. Everything else now becomes dark. Cameras are very dumb. So the camera went, yep, that's perfectly fine. I'm good. I know what I'm looking at. That shield. So, yeah, so ultimately this is a guide, but you have to learn to kind of like see how much you trust it. Look at the surroundings and go, nah, my camera tends to be too dark in these areas, and you learn to trust your own thoughts on it. However, if you're using a compact camera or a phone camera, then this becomes a exposure compensation meter instead. So rather than something you look at and the camera's like, I don't know where this is, you actually say, right, I know what you think is 0, you are wrong, how about you go for -1? So these are half as bright, twice as bright. Ultimately, if you've got a phone camera, you've got a compact camera, and it's too dark too often, tell it to be bright, basically. The other way to trick it, I think I'll use this one as a better example. If I was to take a picture like that, and for some reason I'm just like, I want it to be arty, I want my model over here. But the camera's looking at all this and going, well, I'm going to make it dark because I care about the background more than the foreground. What you can do is point at what you care about, half press the camera. Most cameras will do this, not so much as phone cameras. But phone cameras typically, you've got a touchscreen, you can go, focus on that please. It's really handy. But if you hold in half, mix that up. If you half press the camera, that says, this is what I care about. Please do your focusing and your metering right now. And it will. Cool. I'll take the picture, but then you can then say, right, and then here's the shot I want, using the settings that I just told you to check. And then take a picture. So that's a lot of fun. So it's something I like explaining because people see me do it a lot. Where I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm going to take a picture. Yeah, I've got it lined up. I thought you said you lined it up. Yeah. That's pointing at your face. Another thing that I typically say is if you're not sure, focus on the eyes. Eyes being sharp is one of the best things you can do for any kind of photography. It just looks good. If your eyes are slightly out of focus, slightly blurred, that's one of the first things people tend to look at in a model. So if they look at that and go, that's blurry, the whole picture looks a bit blurry. Whereas if the eyes are sharp, everything else, fine. You get away with a lot of crap as well. I think this is one of the last mathy slides I'm going through. I have to be way too fast up, okay? I love this photo. So I don't know if Dex is here, but I've always loved this photo. It's one of the most perfect exposures I've ever gotten. It's great. So, histograms are complicated to explain, and most cameras will show you this if you ask very nicely. Most of the time it'll hide it from you because, again, it just goes, no, people are stupid, no one cares. I care. I care a lot. If you can learn how to read a histogram, your photos will come a lot easier to kind of get right, because you don't have to worry about it on the day. On the day, you're staring at a tiny little window in here, or on here, the sun's shining in here, God knows what. You're like, is this too bright, is this too dark? I don't know. I'm looking on an LCD screen, you get home, you look at a nice screen, you go, oh, this is the secret. So, this is essentially what the camera can record. Anything below this, too dark. It will just record black, pure black, the blackest of nights. Over here, pure white. Anything in the middle is great. So what this graph will tell me is nothing is pure black, quite a lot in the dark areas, nice amount here, this is all fine. It doesn't really matter all this. All I care about is the two ends. Because it tails off near the end, I know that nothing is hit pure white, nothing is hit pure black, everything is nice. You might see this a bit more often, so you can take a picture like that and go, it's not too bad, it's not too bad. And the camera will start going, whack, you have lost the hands, you've lost the book, there, gone. You can take this into Photoshop and you go, I'm going to darken it a bit, doesn't matter, that's gone. Now it's going to be a pure white flat colour, it's going to look like shit. And the same if you go too dark. So you want to avoid this. It doesn't matter all that much for most people. If you take that picture and you go, I'm happy with that, I'm not going to judge you, I'm not going to judge you. It's more, if you can learn how to get the histogram working in the first place, then you can avoid this, and when you want to Photoshop something, no problem, it's great. Makes your life easier. So this is kind of a better example. When you get it wrong, it starts looking like that. I have embellished a little bit, but no, they tend to start looking like that, and it's horrific. But generally you can look at this and go, actually, you know what, yeah, that's fine. Again, it can be really dark as long as it tails off by the end. That's fine. Say that. White balance is one of the other ones. It's nice and easy. Fundamentally, they're all named pretty much the same thing on every camera. Pick the one for the right situation. If you get it wrong, oh dear. You have made problems with yourself. Auto is pretty good. You can live on auto nearly all the time, but as you can see, that is pretty much chosen sunny here, but like if you want shade, it makes it a little warmer. If you pick tungsten outside, you don't know what tungsten is. So on and so forth. And similar indoors. And you can see that auto again did pretty well, but that is much better. So if you know your lighting, you can tell it, now you know I know where I am. Just don't forget to change it when you go outside. But this picture as well. If you are not sure, or if things are too complicated, you're in a stage lighting, or just this weird coloured lighting, whatever, what you can do is get a great card. So sometimes you see photographers do this. I used to do this a lot. Get up the stage and hold a card and be like, look at my card. And everyone takes a picture and go, yes, yes, I don't know why we're doing this, but it looks professional. And ultimately, you take a picture of something that is mostly grey in the middle, and you tell your camera, that's grey. And you'll go, well, I see you're kind of orange. You're like, oh, that's the lighting. Okay, that is grey. I will balance everything around that. And that's really, really cool. Just again, don't get it wrong where everything goes purple. Don't worry. And this is again to do with lenses. I'm not going to go into too much because it's way complicated, but ultimately, people tend to think that lenses are just you zoom in, you zoom out, and that's all you care about. But no, the wider the lens, the more everything tends to get a bit squished in, and vice versa. So you end up with portrait lenses actually quite far zoomed out. If you want like nice, flattering photos, I tend to be across the room. Really, really is confusing. That's something that you will get used to when you start playing with lenses. Most of you won't have these fancy lenses, so no one cares. Move on. All right. So that's all quick. Yes, make sure the doors are sealed, please. I'm here all weekend, and so will you. Oh god, that was right in my face. Right. So I've talked about what happens inside the camera. I don't want to put that down underneath that. I also have to remember what slides are, because I wrote these 10 years ago. Light is just a pain in general, but it is what you need for a camera. It is your tool, but you don't get to control it very much. So we're going to work with it. Ultimately, it's about looking at what its surrounding is. So here, this is exactly the same spot, but from different angles. And that's something you need to worry about. The person in front of the camera is not going to get too shit. It's like, you have a camera, here I am. What's the problem? The sun is behind them going, ah! They don't know that. You're sitting there, oh my god, I'm blind. But even on a stage, you'd think it'd be evenly lit. You'd think. That'd be nice. Orange lights, no lights, white lights. Oh, That's great photography is hell. Because you've got to change settings when someone's prancing down the stage. But it can play nice. Like, you can get nice, like, filtering through branches, or if you've got, like, translucent stuff. Wow, that's so cool. We need light. Talk a little bit about the kinds of light and my terrible writing. We call hard light when it comes from a direct light source, typically the sun, or any kind of like flash, high beams, anything like that. It is hitting the person in the face and then hitting your camera. That's great. Everything's nice and bobbing. Probably a bit too bobbing. Harsh shadows, very unflattering, and so on and so forth. Which have soft light, it means it hits something else, usually something white like a ceiling or a wall or like a flashy or something like that. Or even just trees. Scatters the light. It is nice and it is soft and it's fluffy and it feels nice on your skin. Maybe.
Oh, it's you.
It is you. I was waiting for that reaction. But you didn't know this was going to be that. And this is literally the same photo, same settings. I've just asked her to take a couple of steps back underneath the trees. And you can see it gets a lot darker, but it is softer. Like, this is not too bad. Softer. Tell me about Flash. I hate Flash. We all hate Flash. It is a lifesaver, but oh dear God, the issues that it causes. So we go over some of the issues and then we'll never talk about it again.
It's even better when your pupils are just naturally dilated all the time.
Yeah, so like, so again, with the whole flash thing, is like you are just basically firing light into people's faces and bringing it back to the camera. That is a problem when the back of your eyeballs are made of blood, and they turn bright red. Especially when you're in direct contact anyway, that's really up. Oh yeah, and also, it just tends to bring highlights to things that you shouldn't be able to see in the first place. As soon as the previous example, if you're holding something shiny near the camera, your camera will go, oh, that's nice, I'm going to focus on that. That's what I'm into. And everything else goes dark. Also, if you happen to accidentally make your costume out of reflective material, you'll be photobombing all weekend. It's really expensive material, I don't know how this happened. I made this one slide because I don't want to talk about Flash forever anymore. I'm sick of talking about flashes. But there's lots of things you can do about it. So direct flash, straight in the face, comes back. Very hard shadows, very unflattering, but it's the easiest. We like easy. You can do things like side flash, which is like you get like a cable and you're sitting there going, oh, very flattering, but a bit artistic. It tends to be, you have to worry about the features that people have. If they're quite worried about their nose, then a side flash is going to really emphasize that, so be careful about that. Diffuse is my favourite. You tend to fire it through some translucent material, usually like a kind of plastic, white plastic piece of shielding, and it makes things nice and soft. It does dim the light a bit, and you tend to get some light back in your face, so you don't have to worry about that. In fact, my flash used to be so bright that people behind me would complain, because I'm firing into this white shield, and they're seeing it back, so worry about that as well. You can also fire off things like the ceiling, which is great, because we're used to seeing light from the sun. It's above people, so that's fantastic. You get the shadows in the right places, everything looks quite natural. But you do have to worry about if the ceiling is too high, or if the ceiling is not white. If you're in a nice wooden building, and you fire up, everyone is rained in brown. It's not the best. If the ceiling is too high, you can do something like both. You can have a shield, and also fire up the ceiling. That goes everywhere. It's fun. Sometimes you use it even when it's daylight. One of the important things to work about when you're playing with light and you're trying to control light yourself is you can't do things like control the sun. The sun doesn't give two shits about what you want to do. Even with your tiny flash, your flashes are very powerful. They are incredibly blinding, which is why they go for a tiny fraction of a second, but the sun still laughs at you. But taking those things into account is actually really important. So we have a situation like this, the sun is the background, this is like expo, so like there's a million people in the background, so like, you know what, this is the only place I can get a clear background from you, but what can I do about the sun? Well, I can fire a flash at them, and it will light them up just fine. It's not going to do anything about the background, because again, the sun doesn't care. So that's pretty cool. But similarly, it's really useful, this is the one that most people might actually use it for, is getting things like LEDs to glow. Because LEDs are great, and you look at them and go, wow, that's really bright. And then you go into like a convention, and no one can see these. But ultimately, people do not glow, LEDs do. So, so you can get pictures like that, but fine, you can see, that's the kind of brightness we want the LEDs to be, but obviously can't see our person. Or we can see our person, but it's kind of blurry because I've had to hold it up for so long. If I use the flash, there's no chance it is gone. So we use a start that again. Best of both worlds. You have a long exposure photo with a flash at the end, or at the beginning, either or. First or second curve, they call it. And the idea is you just keep taking a long photo that lets this happen, and the LEDs start glowing more and more and more because you're holding it open longer, and at the end or beginning, quick flash to get your person as well, Best of both worlds. A lot of fun. And ultimately, you can even use your flash to darken the scene to make lights brighter. It breaks my head every time I think about this, but it works. Because I've used less of a flash and longer exposure, the actual lamp in the scene has had time to glow more. Sometimes. This is why when I'm taking pictures, I'm sitting there going, because my brain is trying to work out what the hell I can do with this thing. So, this will be you one day. Oh, reflectors. What is this? What is this slide? 10 years ago, me. So yeah, reflectors are nice, cheap alternative to flashes, and ultimately they just reflect light back, and that's nice. So you can use, they're just pretty much either a white, gold, or silver, just disc. And you can see there's no reflector. Harsh lighting, very sad. White lighting, this makes it happy. You know, look, you take a hot white disc and you put it in front of people, they look happy. Maybe. Maybe I told you something, I can't remember. You can also use gold just to make things nice and warm. That's fun. Okay, I've missed a slide, I think. This should not be here. Anyway, composition, apparently I'm talking about now. This is what's called the rule of thirds. You can take a picture like this, that is fantastic. However, you might see this grid appear on your camera. This happens on your phone as well, if you turn the settings on. Ultimately, it is more pleasing to have things hit these lines and these crosses. So that photo, I've cropped it, it's the same photo, that looks more aesthetically pleasing than that one did. I don't know how that's happening. It's also a good reason to not do things like this. Because, you know, yes, I've got the whole arm in, but fantastic, all I've got is their face. And don't put your watermark there. Not letting anyone. Not calling anyone out. 10 years ago. But, you know. There we go, that's the one I was waiting for. I'm done talking about the size of a fucking camera. How good is it for time? Okay, I'm doing alright, 300 slides remain. Why did I leave on that slide? Okay, so here we're going to talk a bit about the social aspects of photography, and eventually we'll get to posing as well. So first and foremost, respect. Respect for yourself, respect for your cosplayers, respect for other people in the hotel, and just anyone around you. Do not block corridors. If you do block a corridor and someone's walking down, get the hell out of the way, get back into position afterwards. It's nice and easy, you can all do it. Don't sit there going, oh, we're going to be just 10 minutes, fine, you can just stand there. I don't care what your business is. Don't shoot up skirts. Yeah, think that would common sense. Unless they want you to. No, consent was despite his face, consent was arranged beforehand. There's also communication. This is something I struggle with, as you can probably tell as I've been facing the floor for most of the speech. It's just talk to your cosplayers, work with them. Ultimately, you cannot see what's behind my camera. I cannot see what's coming from your point of view. I do not know what pain you're in. I do not know how much joints are aching. You can be standing there like, oh, I'm in this pose. I'm like, cool. Can you just hold that for 5-10 minutes? No. And you might be thinking there's going to be 2 more seconds. I'm thinking, they're cool. I'm going to be posing this person over here. Communicate. And similarly, like, it's really difficult to just get across what you mean in a lot of ways. I think it's good to sort of work on the way you talk to people, the way you approach people, and get practice with when you talk to a lot of different cosplayers as well, because they don't know you, you don't know them. You could be saying like, move your left arm, and they're like, that is not your left. And you know, you could say like, that's not your left, you idiot. Or you could be like, just move the other arm, your other left, your third left. That's still your right, we need to work on that. Another good thing is things like mirroring, what people call it. So you can say like, okay, this is your arm, let's do this. And some people will go, okay, that's my left arm, and no, the arm that is hit, that one. But I can talk about it a bit, like with posing. I get a lot of things where people be in a pose and go, oh, that's pretty cool, I just need to move your left arm, and they'll be like, what? Oh my God. Go back to where you were. How was I? Especially if you have trouble like me with talking in social situations, like describing how they were, like, okay, your foot was like this, and I don't know, you looked good. I was going to work with that, I was going to say, took this one thing. But work with people, have them work with you. It's all going to be good, and we're going to get good pictures out of it. I try not to touch people, just into general rule, because people are very uncomfortable about it, but if you're okay with me touch, you're like, stop saying words at me, move my hand. Say that to me, that is great, I'll grab your hand and I'll move it, and it will hurt a lot. That's what you get for giving me permission. So yeah, this is about candid photography, which I do quite a lot of, and again, that's crime. It depends on who it with. Work with people and get a good grasp for like how you work with them and like how comfortable they are with you. If you take a picture and they look very uncomfortable, you delete that picture. You do not do that again. And even with that advice, I kind of I don't like the idea that I'm giving the advice of like, take pictures first and ask for forgiveness later. That's very, very dangerous territory. So really, really, really know who you're working with. Sometimes it works, sometimes people are in a pose, again, because they don't know how they're posing. They might be sitting quite naturally. The picture right here, they were just sat like that, having a chill. I was like, don't move any chill. Yes, this looks really good. Whereas if I'd asked them to do this pose, we would have been there for half an hour. And similarly, that was just happening. They were like, okay, well, we'll make a quick pose of it, and that came in. And I'm like, this is fantastic. Sometimes it works. Other times it's creepy. That is not my photo, but I like to show it because that's just like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm having my dinner. Don't do that. Unless it's a friend and it's really, really fun. Certainly don't pick up skirts or have her get her revenge later at a different convention. Yeah, as long as they're okay with it, it's fine. Consent is everything. Going into blinking. This is an issue. But actually, it is not. We make a lot of jokes about it because obviously it happens. Simply, I make this joke. I'm very happy with that picture, like everyone's But it's kind of similar with anything, like adjusting hair happens a lot, especially outdoors. Everyone's worried about what they're going to be looking like, or this will be blinking, anything like that. These are not issues. It's an issue. But one can look lovely at the same time. And ultimately what we do is we just take a lot of photos. Like digital media is cheap, dead cheap, so just take 10 photos and keep the good ones. It doesn't matter they're bad ones because they're great, they can go to panel next year. Yeah. And very similar with things like this, like we're trying to do some very serious scenes, and as you can see, sometimes it just does not go well. It's like, hey, no, you're looking into their eyes, you're in love, and like that, fucking not. Mate, this bitch. But as long as you can hold it for half a second, we can get the picture. It comes out great. That's that lesson. Give some posing. So here's some pictures. They're all fine. They are very boxy though. It's just like, it's just a rectangle. It's just a rectangle. It's just a rectangle. These are supposed to be rectangles. That is fine. Get some pizzazz in there. Confidence. Get some curves going in there. If you're not sure on how to do this, take one step forward. Get a bit of depth going into your picture. Ultimately, it gets down like this, or you can be like that. One step forward is kind of all it takes to change a lot of photos. So there we go. Black, bit of depth, more depth. Fantastic. And it just changes everything. Like sometimes you end up with the same kind of poses. Doesn't matter. It's still better than just standing there. Confidence is huge. And everyone says this about everything, and it is difficult. It's really difficult. I know it's difficult. But if you can, for a second, put yourself in a headspace of someone who else is confident, you're cosplaying someone. Cosplay someone's confident. It's difficult to do. You might be able to hold it for 5 seconds like I can. But again, that's all I need to get a picture. And ultimately, if you look like an idiot, if that's the fear, like, I act confident, like, yes, I'm confident, and look back and you look like an idiot. It doesn't matter. Get the photo deleted, put it in a panel next year. And that's my personal trick when I do costumes, or anything. In fact, my friends know me quite well. You keep talking about this. Is I can be very sassy when I forget who I am for a second. Exactly. I'll put something stupid on my head and be like a rocket, and I'm like, yeah! Okay, I'm sorry I did that. But if there's a photo of me doing that, cool, that's there forever. Good or bad. You can use your hands as props. It's an interesting way of thinking about it. Like, focus immediately goes to people's hands if they're up here. If they're down here, not so much. But you'd be like, I'm playing with my hands. I'm holding something. I have hands of power. I think this is like that. Hands of power. It also draws attention. If you have something about your costume that you really want paid attention to, you spend a lot of work on it. It's like a headpiece or something. Get your hands near it, because that's something like that's where the photo is. Especially if you're working with a photographer who's not very good, like me. They might take a. No, I'm talking for an hour. You can't stop me. If they're just taking full body pictures, and you're like, this is up here. Like I'm wearing shitty trousers I bought in Walmart. What the hell's that? DK Primark, there we go. My God, I've known too many Americans. And you're just like, I don't really care about what's going on here, I care about what's up here. Put your hands up there, and they're like, oh, I should take pictures up there. Can I get a close-up? Yes, that was the intention. But you didn't tell them that, you controlled them with the power of your mind and hands. If you're worried about where to look, this is something that I struggle with a lot with, I know a lot of people do. Straight at the camera, it's fantastic. It's very personal. It's very like, yes, anyone who looks at the picture, it's going to have you looking into their soul, stealing pieces of it at a time. However, if you look at kind of just off camera, which I do a lot, I can be like, okay, there's the camera, but I'm just going to look a little bit nearer. No one will know the difference. It looks super awkward. So I look super awkward. That's one of the problems I have. So ultimately, if you can't look at the camera, or there are multiple cameras, like there's 5 of you, I don't know what's going on. Look somewhere else entirely. Just be like, what's going on over there? Yeah. And it works for all the cameras that way. It's a neat little trick. And kind of similar, like if you kind of like, what to do? Oh. And now people do this, like, oh, what's that over in the distance? Like, if you think like that in a normal conversation, and they're like, yeah, I'm listening. But it works in photos, so it doesn't matter. If you're not sure about looking in front of you, why not look behind you? Get some back shots. If you're proud of the back of your costume, why not show it off? Get a bit of mystery going on, especially if you don't like your face. It's great. Or you can even look away entirely. It doesn't have to be, everything has to be a 3/4 shot. This is my studio portfolio. Get interesting. If you have multiple people, or if you have like multiple props, something like, get some symmetry going. Why not? It can be good fun. Or you can go for asymmetry. Why not have one leg here and out there? If you've got something like an umbrella, you've got depth, it's something interesting. So on one side of you, not the other. It is funky. You can tell I like that photo, doesn't it? Like it, Gracie, okay. Look like you mean it. This goes back to the confidence thing, but also not necessarily have to be confident in yourself if you struggle with that. Just look like you're going to kill someone. You have to be confident because they're going to be dead at the end of it. They're going to be judging how you did it. But similarly, like you can like, yay! Or like, yeah! Huge difference. Again, I have 1 second of confidence there. That's all you need. And just similar, especially if you're like on a stage or anything like that, in front of a masquerade, big movements. And they say this a lot with theatre as well, rather than just like standing here and like, I'm doing a thing, just be like, I'm doing a thing, goddammit! Big eye transition. If you have props or anything like that, be careful about what you're hiding. Don't put your hands in front of people's faces. And so like, these are cool poses. You can't tell what she's holding. Do something cool to get it in view. Similarly, if you have like different costumes or like massive props, it depends how simple they are. Like something like say the fan here, it's cool, a lot of work's gone into it, but ultimately you look and you go, cool, it's a fan. You don't need to see all of the fan to know that it's a fan. But I can't see the cosplay now. Get behind them, nothing's lost. Similar ones like that. You've got like a massive costume which was very detailed, but took a lot of attention from people. Everyone's like, wow, this massive armor costume. Whereas actually there's much finer details in these small pieces. Put that in the foreground. Make them want to know, like, wait, what's that in the background? No, you don't get to see that. No, that's later. And similarly, we've got a massive, giant purple ass in the way. Don't trip over tables either. If you've got more than one person, why not team up, interact with each other? It makes for so much better photos. You can post next to each other and be like, how's the weather? Especially if you don't know them that well. It's like, we're from the same from the same show. I guess we like the show. Yeah. Nice weather. It's England shit. Have a chat. Like sit with each other. Sit on some banisters or something. Just interact. You get much better photos. Makes me happy as well because I didn't have to come up with the idea. You did. And yeah, to just exemplify that, it's just like, yeah, you can just stand in each other. Get in there. Get physical. Maybe not because it's COVID times, but when it's not COVID times, get physical. As long as they consent. Consent's important. Consent's interesting. That's a novel concept. I'm sure we've got so many others. Yeah, if you have multiple people, say stagger them. Get them different. Everyone stand at a different state. Plane. So like, got one here, one back there, one here. Change the heights up. Instant J-pop cover. It's fantastic. Works every time. Get to come back. This is where I got some friends and went, let's go in a field with some weapons and take some posing photos. See where all these came from. So these are the photos I've taken, which just could be better. Like, they've got some weapons, fantastic, but people tend to point guns straight at the camera. Don't do this, because all I see is a silver tip and go, cool, that's great. Whereas if you point it slightly off camera, fantastic, look at this shit. I only really mention this because normally, like, someone does this to me, they're pointing the camera, and I go, cool, I'll move this way there, and they go. But I'm pointing at an eyeball. I don't want it in my eyeball. As I said, there's lots of things you can do with like where you're pointing. You can point it slightly to the side, which actually kind of looks kind of stupid if you're not behind the camera. front of the camera, a tray. You can have like, yeah, pulling the weapon from out. Just be slower, I'm sorry. Pulling it out from a holster, something like that, holding it off to the camera side. Pistol whip someone in the face, why not? I encourage violence. Spot what's wrong with these photos. This is going to make you very mad.
Potentially it's meant to be like that.
It still looks like it's the right way around.
Yeah.
Did you not spot that?
She tried to get herself stabbed.
Well, this is it. Like, so all the photos here, these are just photos that are naturally taken. Everyone's holding the camera phones backwards. And it's like, sharp end goes towards bad guy. Don't do that. So fisticuffs, like, something I really like doing is getting some action shots in there. And it's very difficult because we're not all trained in martial arts, and neither am I. So we'll make it sharp. But ultimately, this is the kind of result. I just literally said, go for it. See what we can do, and then I will correct you later. And you get this kind of
just bait each other and you take photos.
Yes, that's right. Fine. It's great. You should do it more often. But everyone's going, everyone's like, no, I might hurt them. So, I'll punch you. And it just looks shit because it is. Meanwhile, this is how cool it can look, and it still hasn't hurt anyone. Yeah. I mean, probably hurt. I mean, that post probably hurts quite a bit. That's fine. I'm the one behind the camera. So similar, it's something like, okay, kick something, or turn to the side a bit, and look how much better that looks. It's all about just thinking about intent. Is what intent shows through. This might actually not be very good for martial arts kid, like she's back straight, like, if I'm not going to get to someone, you know what, let's call a camera. And that's all we care about. And then this is some of the results. Like, just people who put a bit of thought into what they're doing. I mean, that's just an exception. I don't expect everyone to leave like 5 foot off the floor. But if you can.
The camera looks like it hurt.
Yeah, probably did. Again, consent. And again, this is a very, very similar shot. Like, yeah, they just posed this by themselves, and I went, you know what, let's do it a bit better. But also, flick your head at the last second. It doesn't have impact. They can still be holding this, because this actually was held. They're just holding that, and it's like, now flick your hair. Take a picture. Looks like it was instant. Motion. And then this is a slide of just these two, because this was just fun. Just kept going out. It's like, cool. I'll keep taking pictures. You go for it. Some ideas for camera tricks. Get people to hold shit is the best thing ever. So it's like it looks like they're suspended. This one actually kind of failed, but you can take 2 pictures, they don't move, and then later you Photoshop them together, and then you get a different picture of the reflection. It's more holding shit. Height, if that's an important thing for you. If you've got 2 characters, but you are not the correct heights for the characters, I don't give 2 shits, but if you worry about it, then there are tricks you can do. This is some of them. Also like bending legs behind people, standing on different things and just cutting off where the feet are. Just better than that. We can, as a photographer, make you look shorter, make you look taller, depending on what we do with the camera angles. So you tend to find like I'll climb from the chair and be like, right, you are now tiny. But similarly, we can make you look freaking giant. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a question for me, though. It's like, wait, how dare you get that on? Right, so we've got to talk a little bit about backgrounds, which is great because we're in the middle of Minami where there are no backgrounds whatsoever. But in theory, if there were nice backgrounds, where would you go? So little things can make a big difference when you actually start getting down to it. Like the most important thing is who's in the camera. Who's in the camera today? Who's in the photo? Like that's what we're here for. We're taking pictures of cosplayers. But once you've gotten that, and you've got a cool pose, and everything you're happy about that, let's think about backgrounds a little bit. So just little differences like you can see people and they can see bags, or you can't. You can see like there's trees and there's people in the background, or you can't. And yeah, some examples. Making things basically look desolate just makes more focus on the person, and also kind of like, where are they? That's really cool. I do a lot of photos like this. This is Expo. This is the middle of Expo. It's really busy, but you catch the right second, it's an empty wasteland. That's fantastic. Similar if you found like a bit of cage and you're like, oh, it looks like they're all lonely and sad, and then someone just walks past and you're like, well, someone else is in there with them. That's a bit different. This is the same tree, just from different angles, and it's like, well, that's a campus building, and there's a building in the background, no, that's got a building in the background, or it's a forest, or it's a forest, or it's a big forest. Fantastic. Just from the angle you chose. Clean up rubbish behind you. I think she's kicking into the river, so maybe not do that. Other than that, get out of the way for the view. You can have nice pictures like this, but you get a bit of green in the background, or you can cut it out. Now it is doom and gloom. Tiny details like that. Gardens are always fantastic, if you can find one. If not, stairs. Stairs are one of the most commonly used backgrounds for us, especially here, where there are stairs. Fantastic. But it helps doing like the Jacob cover thing. You can stand people on different stairs. That's all cool. Stand under them, stand on them, lie on them. Very painful, but makes for good photos. Black holes are actually a lot of fun. So you can see like most of these are Minami. So that's all cool. Giant sandwiches, they are a no. Just putting that out there. That's one of the worst photos I've ever taken. I love it. If you can't find a good background, pick the sky. In fact, okay, only 2 of those have been at me, but the sky's pretty good. If not, leading lines is a fantastic one to work with. Like you get lots of things like the end of Minami walls, circles, stuff like that. Think of stuff like that. Or just, what do you have with you? Can you work with it? Can't you on a bus? Who knew? Who knows? Fantastic. I think I started to out like someone had dropped some juice and it was just like a blood red like mass stain on the ground. They're like, I can use that and die. And if not, bring your own background. Just clean up after you, please, Jesus Christ. But yeah, it's all fun. If you can cosplay your entire car, that's cool. Or otherwise, if you can't find a good background, who cares about the background? Just imitate some shots, and it doesn't matter what the background is, because the background didn't have the original background. The original shot didn't have backgrounds either, so why not? And this just leads to what is my is have fun, and that goes from behind the camera and in front of it. Just stick around, please. Like, I will feel really awkward if everyone goes really super serious on me. It has to be stupid. It has to be fun. We can take the serious photos, but I want the stupid as well. Because these are some of my favourite moments, and this is why I love photography. This is why I've been doing it for 15 years. I'm talking about it. Some of these are more newer photos, but some of these are the classics, and just makes me happy. I'm tearing up a little bit. Which is why that is the end. So, are there any questions?
How do you go about building your confidence as a photographer? Obviously, you grow in confidence as you get more skill, but say myself, I'm fairly new to it, I'm not very good yet.
Welcome.
So I almost feel guilty if I'm asking someone if I can take a photo. It's like, it's going to be crap, but can I take a photo?
Actually, I was going to joke just like you've asked the wrong person on confidence in the photography, but no, because I come from the same position. And some of that comes from faking it. It's just being like, I'm going to take a picture, it's going to be good. Don't tell them it's going to be crap. They'll find out themselves. Humour is a good way, as you can see, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Ultimately, if you're having fun and they're having fun, then the result doesn't matter, because you're going to get better. You can take, and ultimately, you can take a picture and go like, okay, it's not great. What's wrong with it? What can we do better? And especially in small casual environments like this, if you're on a good rapport with people anyway, if they're friendly and you're friendly, you're like, can we just, like, what can we do about this? Could you just? And that's a fantastic way. And then once you get one good photo, I got a good photo. Cool. And then someone else sees you taking photos, like, oh, you're taking photos, and you're like, gee, you want a photo? That is how I have worked for the last 15 years. Once I get one good photo, that is it. I'll be like, do you want some photos? Ham it up, absolutely ham it up. Get your camera, and like a lot of time, I would actually be just like, no words, just like camera. Do you want pictures? And that has actually worked for me. But that's a fantastic question. I want to see more blood come into this. I don't want to see more blood, I want to see more fresh blood. The blood can stay inside you. But no, absolutely, if that's something you're worried about and you want some advice, please talk to me, I need friends. And actually you will find, especially this convention and ones like it, everyone here is super friendly. And they want more photos. They don't want to rely on me the whole time. I suck.
Lies.
Sometimes I lie. Actually, I lie.
I don't have a question, but it's more of an addendum to the answer to the question. From a cosplayer's perspective, they'll be just as happy that you wanted to take a photo of them than because they're also, it's not one of those like, oh, I want it for myself, but in part it is a massive flattery for someone to come up to you and say, can I take a photo of you? So they'll appreciate it as much as you do.
Actually, that's an incredible point.
I always thought I'm basically harassing people.
No, and the thing is that you've asked, and that is the biggest thing, and that's so much more appreciated than someone just being like,
if you want to make a nice opener, compliment the cosplayer on their costume, don't tell them they look hot. Costume is amazing, can I get a photo, will get you much further.
Unless they are visibly sweating. Is that
Yeah, you look hot, can I get a photo now so you won't be sweating?
you can find a different time.
Yeah, I think that's, my usual opener is just like talk about the costume. Like, do I recognise it? Is it something I know about? As a cosplayer, I can also say, like, how did you make it? And that is a fantastic opening. And almost invariably they say, well, actually it's really shit if you see these stitching here. Like, it's just like, we all do. But don't get talking and make friends. Like, yeah, actually, as a cosplayer as well, like, not a lot of people take our pictures. So you asking is really, really nice. And if they say no, that's cool. As long as you're not like, ugh, about it, then that will catch on. People talk a lot. And if you are nice to one person, that will get around. If you're nasty to people, that'll also get around. So don't do that. But no, it's a wonderful community. Welcome to it.
Not so much a question, but more of a thing. That is an absolutely amazing time capsule of photos. I really enjoyed that. So I wasn't in the con scene during those years, but they're all the shows I loved.
Fantastic.
So that was great.
That comes to me because, like, so I used to be the most prolific, not the best photographer, but the most prolific photographer. I would take 10,000 photos every convention. Not anymore, because I killed myself. But again, that's something fantastic. And when I have lost confidence at big events, when I haven't taken many photos, I do regret it later because there's no longer a record. And that works for everyone, not just for me. There's times where I'm like, this is just me, and no one cares. Like, they've got the photos they want and they're done. I'm going to shut my website down. I'm going to go. It's going to become terrible. And then someone will be like, shit, like, I just went through your photos for this entire convention and memory lane, and like, oh my god, thank you so much for this. Makes my heart melt. So yeah, do it for yourself, do it for everyone. And, it will come back around.
It's fun going back through your photos and being like, there was a point before I knew you, and yet you were still taking my photo.
Yeah.
And kind of like
That's
identifying that point where we became friends. It's great.
That's it. It's just like there's pictures of people that I've taken that I'm friends with now, and I'm really good friends with, and I'm going through the gallery. It's like, that's them. Was this you? 5 years before I knew you. How dare you get in my life before that? And that's it. Like that's one of the things of like you can make friends now for the period it takes to take a photo. They could be your great friends 5, 10 years down the line, or maybe today. Who knows? Treat everyone like a good friend, and they will treat you back. That's how I found it.
There's a question over on that end.
What was that? Oh.
Just, no, how did you pose? There was a photo in the poses one where someone was doing like a wrestling pose there. And I have no idea how you posed that, because it looked like the back was going
So those kind of things, I should probably like disclaimer that one. Those are quite dangerous. You should know what you're doing before you be in those photos.
Yeah, one of those
and they
guys
did.
is a professional wrestler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he actually is. That's more like, that's happening. Cool, I'll get the picture. You do the dangerous bit.
Yeah, I think that was actually during the masquerade, and it freaked everyone out in the audience when they actually physically threw a guy onto the ground in front of us all.
It was out on the pavement where they were practicing. And I was like, this is the pavement? You're insane. But it comes to communication. Like, people say,
see that
I've had
masquerade.
people, we did, and actually, this was some spring. I think it's actually been a bit American, so it might actually be my story. But someone was cosplaying from Mami from Medical Magic, which has lots of like color guard guns. And she did color guard. Someone said like, man, you like just like a proper color guard rifle. She's like, well, I can do the spinning. You know, but if no one asks, no one knows you can do it. If you've got crazy like abilities, like someone bust out the poi or something like that, fucking do it. I'll take pictures. This is great. Yeah. Anything else? Before I go and cry. I can cry now. I can do that. Okay. No, in that case, I think we're done. Thank you for your